Welcome back to today's economic news, where we dive deep into the stories that shape our world. I'm your host, John, and today we're turning our focus to a significant and tumultuous event unfolding in the Middle East. Protests in Iran are posing an unprecedented threat to the Islamic Republic, unparalleled since the 1979 revolution. Now, what exactly is happening on the streets of Tehran and beyond? Why does this moment mark a potential tipping point? And how could this impact not only Iran, but the entire geopolitical landscape? Now, before diving into the crux of our story today, let's set the stage with a little context. We have a regime that, since 1979, has built a formidable infrastructure of power rooted in theocratic and authoritarian governance. Now, imagine living under a government for nearly half a century that prioritizes its survival over the economic prosperity and personal freedoms of its citizens. This pattern of governance isn't just about tightening the belt on social restrictions, but is enshrined in a history of economic missteps and oppressive measures. The regime has maintained its grasp through the loyalty of institutions such as the notorious Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps or IRGC. Despite previous uprisings like those in December 2017 and November 2019, which were met with lethal force and narrative control through censorship, today's protests are different, marked by a singular, powerful demand for the regime's total overthrow. Now, how did we reach this explosive juncture? To understand, let's rewind a bit. The seeds of massive discontent we see today were sown with years of economic mismanagement. A nation rich in resources, and yet its people have been forced to weather storm after storm of economic crises. Inflation rates have skyrocketed. The economy feels more like a roller coaster on the brink than a stable force for good. In 2010, for instance, turning point for many who had hoped for a reformist agenda, the realization dawned that change was impossible within the current regime. In a world craving moderation, reformism was deemed a fanciful notion, a fiction, as one disillusioned supporter put it. Fast forward to January 1st, 2026. Projected key markers show the strain of years up, unresolved economic grievances compounded by just as many years of social restriction. While protests calling for economic reform and social change have erupted periodically, each one has been consistently met with a brutal crackdown. It becomes increasingly evident that this isn't just about lifting dress codes or providing better food prices. This is about dismantling an entire oppressive system that has thrived on the deprivation of its people. Let's examine some hard facts. Think about this. Between 1979 to now, every attempt at reform has been met with obstacles that seem insurmountable. The people were promised improvement. What did they get in exchange? According to some reliable sources, inflation hangs around a daunting 25% in some areas, eating away at the income of everyday citizens like a relentless beast. This inflation isn't just a number, it's an erosion of wealth. It's the economic equivalent of theft, where dreams of prosperity are replaced by the nightmare of basic survival, all orchestrated by a regime steering its own ship into the storm without a care for the passengers on board. And let's talk about the voices of courage who said, "We have nothing left to lose." The gravity of this sentiment cannot be underestimated. What drives someone to risk their lives, do you ask? It's the realization of a life with diminished hopes under a regime that promises little and delivers less. For roughly half of those years, I supported the reformist movement, resonates one former supporter. But after 2010, we became certain that the Islamic Republic is not reformable. An entire populace coming to terms with a system that isn't working and is, instead, exploitative to the core. This brings us to the crux of the libertarian perspective on this debacle. We witness a regime fumbling with its economy, where inflation becomes a silent thief and the promise of prosperity is an empty echo. The regime's inability to address grievances and social restrictions highlights the incompetence that pervades their policies. They clamp down on dissent with iron fists, failing to see that their top-down control is like a lid on a boiling pot. Eventually, the steam finds a way to escape. Citizens yearn for liberty and self-determination, kicking back against the tyranny that's shrouded their nation for decades. Here we see a people fighting back against those who believe they can stifle freedom with force. In conclusion, the protests rocking Iran are not just a cry for reform, but a bold demand for transformation. Regime change that many see as their only option for reclaiming their rights, their wealth, and their future. It's a call for self-determination in the face of oppression, echoing through the streets, shouting enough is enough. If you too are tired of economic mismanagement and the trampling of freedoms, hit subscribe. I'm John, reminding you to stay informed and engaged as we look forward to a world where people live by their own rules, not by the chains of oppressive administration. Until next time, stay vigilant and stay vocal.